Welcome to the channel. Like, comment, subscribe, share it with a friend. If y'all got any stories out there that y'all want me to react to, just send them to me and we'll react to them. But today we will be reacting to the scammer who used love to live like a millionaire.
how do we how do we meet this guy who we think is the guy of our dreams, and then you open up your bank accounts and stuff to him?
Jason Porter.
For years, one man presented himself as perfect. He smiled, he listened, he promised a dreamlike future, but all of it was a lie. Jason Porter was a man capable of building multiple identities, of inventing entire lives, of playing with the hearts and finances of women who trusted him, an emotional predator who turned love into his most powerful weapon. This is the story of Jason Porter, the man behind Jace Peretti, a serial romance scammer who deceived dozens of women across Canada and the United States, and whose web of lies was finally uncovered thanks to the courage of his victims. Get ready to enter a world of deception, manipulation, and betrayal.
Well, I didn't really open all my bank accounts to him. He, unbeknownst to me, go into my wallet and take out my Visa, and that's when they would go missing. And I
Right.
can't tell you how many replacement cards I went through thinking, oh my God, where did I leave it? When it was
Right.
him doing it. And then I'd find charges I didn't recognize. But
The man who introduced himself as Jace Peretti, a successful international business consultant, was in fact Jason Porter, a Canadian citizen with a past far darker than his impressive resume suggested. His childhood was marked by loss and instability. His mother was barely 20 when she had him. His biological father was an alcoholic, and after the premature death of his stepfather in 1984, Jason was forced to move in with his biological father. By the age of 18, he had already accumulated arrests for theft, credit card fraud, and minor offenses. What he described as a dark phase he had overcome was, in reality, just the beginning of a criminal pattern he would perfect over the years. Porter was described by both police and his victims as a serial romance scammer, a man who not only deceived financially, but also manipulated emotionally, built relationships, stole trust, and vanished without a trace. His life was a labyrinth of falsehoods, and to navigate it, he employed a calculated and cruel modus operandi. First, identity. Porter constantly changed aliases, life stories, and adapted his persona to match the type of woman he wanted to attract. To one, he was a refined financial consultant, to another, a high-end real estate agent, and at times, a devoted software engineer raising his son alone. Second, justification. To keep his multiple lives separate and explain his long absences, he created elaborate excuses: urgent business trips to Europe, confidential government projects, or sudden family tragedies that required discretion, and often financial assistance from his partner. These lies were so detailed that they strengthened the illusion that he lived on the edge of the extraordinary, that he was a man unlike any other. What seemed like a passionate romance would slowly transform into a framework of silent manipulation, a web of lies, disappearances, bank transfers, borrowed jewelry, credit cards opened in his name, and a victim trapped in guilt and confusion, believing she was in love with a genuine man. Jason Porter's selection process was as meticulous as it was perverse. He didn't choose at random. He chose with surgical precision. He knew exactly what to look for: women with two unmistakable traits: emotional availability and a genuine desire for real connection. Women who weren't broken but open, who still believed in love, in trust, in the promise of a shared future. And for a manipulator like Porter, that faith was the perfect weakness. His tactic began.
So y'all tell me in the comments, how would y'all feel if, what I'm saying, some stuff that you would see on TV end up being your reality? Like you actually, going through this guy's lying to you. He say he he say he one person, but he a whole different person, and he don't have the stuff that he say he have. So you know what I'm saying. So how would y'all feel if you was in this situation, and what would you do in this situation?
With what's known as love bombing, an emotional avalanche, sweet messages at all hours, endless phone calls, unexpected gifts, and a level of attention that felt straight out of a romantic movie. Porter didn't seduce, he emotionally invaded. Within days, he was talking about marriage, European vacations, houses by the sea, a life that seemed too good to be true, and it was. The goal was simple: to create total emotional dependence in the shortest time possible. Once the victim was completely devoted, the script changed. Excuses began to appear, subtly at first. An unexpected business trip, an urgent investment opportunity, an unfair fine that threatened to ruin everything. And with a calm, convincing tone, the financial requests began to slip in. A temporary transfer, a card borrowed just for a few days, a small loan to avoid a scandal. It was never his fault. It was always someone else's tragedy, an unforeseen event, a twist of fate. And in every story, there was always one key element, something carefully designed to trigger compassion, empathy, and love.
$1,000.
$100,000, $150,000.
I brought him into our home.
Among all of Jason Porter's victims, one story stands out, not only for its pain, but for its courage. The story of Heather Rovette, a well-known real estate agent from Toronto, whose life changed forever after falling in love with a man who never existed. Heather believed, like so many others, that she had found her soulmate. For 3 years, she shared her life with the man she thought was Jace Peretti, an international consultant, elegant, charming, and full of plans for the future. There was love, complicity, and promises of marriage. They dreamed of a home together, of trips abroad, of a life that seemed written by fate itself. But the awakening was brutal. Small cracks began to appear in the perfect story. Unanswered emails, trips that didn't align, financial details that didn't make sense. Guided by intuition and growing doubt, Heather began to investigate on her own. What she discovered left her frozen. Jace Peretti didn't exist. Behind that name was Jason Porter, a con artist with a criminal record, multiple identities, and a long history of romantic deception. While Heather believed in true love, Porter was maintaining several simultaneous relationships, each one carefully constructed. Fake names, fabricated stories, repeated promises. The emotional blow was devastating. Shame for having trusted, anger for being betrayed, and above all, a sense of helplessness that could have destroyed her. But Heather chose a different path. Instead of hiding, she decided to confront him publicly. She teamed up with journalists, handed over evidence, and shared her story in her own words. Her testimony became the backbone of the documentary rom-com Who the FK is Jason Porter, a production that exposed to the world the true magnitude of his deception. Heather's financial losses were enormous, more than 200,000 Canadian dollars in money, jewelry, loans, and bills Porter made her take on, and she wasn't alone. It's estimated that dozens of women suffered similar losses, though the total amount stolen will likely never be known. Heather Rovette turned her pain into purpose. Her voice sparked a chain reaction, a wave of testimonies from other women who in silence had fallen victim to the same man, the same emotional predator. Because in the end, Heather didn't just uncover a scam, she unmasked a predator who had turned love into his most dangerous weapon.
Another red flag was when push would come to shove with financial things. He just never seemed to have the money, and I could never figure that out. But I was like, okay, I've got it.
Jason Porter's true talent wasn't just in lying, It was in living inside his lies. His art consisted of sustaining multiple realities without letting any of them collide. He was an actor, a screenwriter, and a director, all at once. A man who played 20 parallel lives with chilling precision, and he did it with a lifestyle straight out of a movie. Luxury hotels, dinners at exclusive restaurants, trips to exotic destinations, high-end cars, and expensive watches. Every gesture, every detail reinforced the illusion of success and power, becoming another instrument of his manipulation. It was reported that Porter maintained dozens of active profiles on social media and dating apps. Each account was a different universe, a new identity, a different story, a separate goal. And each woman was a hermetically sealed compartment of his double life. He never mixed names, dates, or emotions. His mind was trained to remember every detail. One woman's birthday, another's invented story, the lies he needed to repeat, and the ones he needed to forget. The downfall of Jason Porter wasn't the work of the police. It was the work of his victims. As happens in many romance scams, the truth began to surface when the women started talking to each other. It all began with small suspicions, casual comments on social media, crossed messages between strangers who shared the same name. Jace Peretti, Heather Rovit, along with other women, took control of the narrative. They turned their pain into a collective investigation. They compared dates, emails, addresses, and photos. They uncovered identical patterns, the same excuses, the same business trips, the same romantic gestures, and the same financial emergencies, told just weeks apart. The puzzle came together with a chilling truth. They had all been victims of the same man. Heather decided to confront him. She arranged to meet, looked him straight in the eye, and laid out the irrefutable evidence: messages, names, documents, photographs. And in that instant, Porter did what he did best. He disappeared, like a ghost fading at dawn. But this time, his disappearance came with consequences. His story was no longer under his control. Toronto Life published a devastating expose.
So he had everything thought out. He had to be really good in order to remember the stories. But he used the same name for everybody. Like, I mean, that's easy to trace, especially if you're using social media. Nowadays, it's easy to track people down from, using social media. Especially you got that Facebook page, so easy to find, easy for them to, reach out to each other, see each other, or whatever.
Twisted Mind of a Serial Romance Scammer, an article that completely stripped away his facade, revealing the names, the patterns, and the psychological profile of a man who had turned love into his weapon. Shortly after, Amazon Prime Video released the documentary Rom-Com, Who the Fuck is Jason Porter?, in which Heather and other victims told their stories in front of the cameras. A narrative that had been silenced for years became a warning to the world. The man who lived by lies was finally exposed, from a romantic fantasy to a name that now represents the very face of emotional deception. The trail left by Jason Porter is marked by criminal charges, yet justice never truly matched the magnitude of his crimes. Although he was found guilty of several counts of fraud, not all were directly connected to his romantic scams. The most disturbing question remains unanswered. How many victims were there really? There are no exact numbers. It's estimated that dozens of women were manipulated, with financial losses ranging from hundreds of thousands to, collectively, perhaps millions of dollars, though the exact figure remains unknown. The story of Porter reminds us that intelligence and charm can be used to destroy, and that the voices of the victims are the only weapon capable of exposing the truth. Thank you for staying with us until the end of this story. The story of Jason Porter reminds us that deception can take many forms, and that sometimes reality is far darker than any fiction. If this case impacted you, don't miss our previous video, Simon Leviev, the Prince.
So in that video, it sounded like all the women well, at least a few of them got together some kind of way. I guess they saw each other on social media or whatever. Uh, and they linked up and, they figured some stuff out. So, have anybody ever been in this situation or know somebody been in this situation? If so, y'all, tell me about it. Let me know, how that situation was. But, like I said, he had to be really good to remember what he do with each woman. You know what I mean? I know that can't be an easy task, but to use the same name, I mean, like you asking to get caught. But I mean, I know I did see that he had several social media accounts with different names. So, maybe he did use different names. I don't know. But y'all tell me what y'all think in the comments.